So, next is the depths. I'm skipping the surface. We're going to do the surface last. Same thing, rating the atmosphere and the gameplay. Depths, I give the atmosphere solid 5 out of 5 stars. Freaking love the depths atmosphere. Mortified. The fact that Ocarina of Time is my favorite game does not make sense because I'm terrified of that game. Like, it scares me to no end. And yet, it's my favorite. Same with the depths. The first time I went into a chasm, I was so disoriented. I was like, what is happening? And it was mortifying. It was scary and just, oh. And then gameplay, I give it more of a 4 out of 5 stars. I do really like it. I think the fact that there aren't shrines makes me like it less because I personally love the shrines of Tears of the Kingdom. I loved them in Breath of the Wild as well. I think I didn't finish them in Breath of the Wild, so I don't know. That's a different topic. But even though I didn't do all of those Colosseum bosses, I didn't do all of the crazy big overworld bosses, I recognize that was a big step up. That was a huge thing. And again, another topic for later, but I would sometimes get a little bit too close to Caldera just so I could hear the music. That's it. I just wanted to hear the music. So yeah, 5 stars for atmosphere for the depths personally, and 4 stars for gameplay because it does get a little bit of repetitive, but like it's so big. I get why. There was less Sky Islands, but the depths is the same as the surface. So there was a lot. So for this one, let's start with Daniel. I don't know who I started with before. I lost track.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I would say pretty much exactly the same thing that you said. I thought it was really there was some sameness, but more variety than the Sky had for sure. And even though like there was some sameness, what was there was so good that I didn't mind that there was sameness. Like it was just this, especially when you first go there and you haven't lit up any light routes yet, and it's just this enveloping darkness. The vibe is so palpable, and unlike the Sky Islands, they barely advertised the depths, so it was like this complete surprise to me. Like I thought, okay, I'm going into a cave. The first time I went into a chasm, right in Central Hyrule, for that Robbie quest, and I was like, oh yeah, I thought I was going into a cave because I had explored a couple caves already. And then it just kept going. And I was like, how big is this? I did not expect that there was going to be like a whole, like, second, like basically a whole dark world almost. So yeah, it was just, I found really enthralling. And I would spend, I'd be playing on my OLED, like in bed in the dark with headphones on. And it was like a whole experience. Like, I can't explain. Like, it was incredibly immersive. So, yeah, I loved it. It was good. So that's all I'll say.
Fair enough. All right, Adam, your rating.
Atmosphere, I'm going 5 as well. I think it was perfect. It encapsulates complete darkness very well. Particularly something I loved was when you first go down, or every time you go down actually, and you hear that loud blast of music, particularly if you're playing with headphones. That sets the tone for what you've just went into so well. And it really sets the tone for the atmosphere of down there, because everything's dark, everything's a little creepy. Coming across one of those giant frogs in the dark, terrifying. Especially when they start getting fast, because they don't look fast, but they're fast. And then they jump.
The jump is such a surprise.
Oh, it caught me off guard so much. I was in the
Freaked
complete
me
dark,
out.
and I didn't have the sound too loud, and I just saw this giant thing coming my way, and I was like, oh no. Paused the game, left the area, didn't come back for a few days. I'd go 5 atmosphere. I think I'd go 3 for gameplay, mainly just because the sameness of some areas, it felt a little copy and pasted, but it's still very enjoyable, so I wouldn't give it negative, I wouldn't go fully positive. I feel like right in the middle is fair for that, so yeah, 3 out of 5 gameplay.
Nice. All right, Nehru.
So atmosphere, 5, same as everybody else. The one moment, pretty much everybody said everything that I think, but the one moment that I appreciate about the depths the most is, I can't remember which entrance it is, but it's when you go down the entrance right into the mouth of the gigantic Frox, who comes out of nowhere and tries to bite you as you're landing. That was an incredible moment. And same with like having a Lionel just slowly, because I didn't realize the whole Lionel under each stable thing until way later. So just creeping into the depths and having a Lionel just slowly appear out of the darkness always freaked me out every time. So I really appreciated just what the complete darkness had to offer. And in terms of gameplay, the depths is like sort of a cheat code for me because I love the floor is lava, and I always have since I was a kid. And I love it in video games too. Like I love lava levels in video games where you can't touch the ground. So the depths just being one giant the floor is lava game with the malice was just incredible for me. I had so much fun trying to figure out how to get from one area to the other without touching the malice. And I also think that the depths has a lot more on offer than most people sort of tend to say, because I find that there's a lot of interesting stuff down there, even though it's most of the time it's ruins. That's kind of what you should expect in an underground area, but there's a lot of interesting things to discover. Like there are lakes to check out, and the Yiga hideouts are a delight every single time, especially while you're actively doing the Koga quest. The Koga quest line is just wonderful, and the probably the most environmental storytelling. Or not environmental storytelling, but the most storytelling comes from reading those little Yiga books and seeing what they've unfortunately discovered by failing in the underground. So I actually find that there's a fair bit on offer underground, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. So gameplay, I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Awesome. I also actually did not know about the whole Lionel under the stable thing until you said it. That makes sense now. That is really cool. I love how they think of all these different things. All right, Josh, your rating.
So for the depths, I have to give it a solid 5 out of 5. Both gameplay and atmosphere, because in terms of atmosphere, I'm sure we can all testify, but when we all came across those gloom hands for the first time, it probably scared the mess out of us. And the depths is where I had my very first encounter with gloom hands. It was complete and utter darkness. I was on my way to Korok Forest to see, because I figured out that's how you get to Korok Forest, is by going down to the depths. And I was on my way trying to get there, and all of a sudden they just showed up out of nowhere. I was like, what in the heck is this? Is these things? And then they chase you, and then they grab you. I was like, is this Dead Hand from Ocarina of Time? What is this? I was losing my head. I was like, and I died immediately, as I'm sure all of us probably did. And so, yeah, scared the mess out of me. But gameplay-wise, I really enjoy the depths for the fact that you can go and rematch those epic bosses that we got this time around. I enjoyed almost every boss in this game, and so getting to go back into the depths and you get to rematch those bosses, so much fun. And the rewards you get, and just the fact that Nintendo kept that entire second part of the game a secret, pretty much all the way up until the game's release, was pretty impressive. I remember going down into the chasms for the very first time and then opening my map. I was like, no way there's a second Hyrule down here, pretty much. And yeah, so gameplay and atmosphere, solid 5 out of 5. They did their job.
Nice. Oh, gloom hands. Mine was in broad daylight, and I just see the whole sky go purple and red, and I was like, what just happened? Why are we getting a blood moon during the day? It turns around, and it's right there, and I'm like, I'm dead now. That was in my first, few hours of playing, too, because I got off the sky pretty fast. All right, Drake, and your rating?
I think I'm gonna be a little bit of a contrarian here.
Go for it.
I would say for atmosphere, I would give it 4.5, which is still high. A little bit better than Sky Islands, but still, I really lament the lack of variety in the biomes, because it's all one biome all across the depths, and with how it's mirroring the surface, then maybe the lava falls beneath all the hot springs were really cool, but you could do something okay, so under Hybra, if it's mirror opposite, then maybe make it hotter or something, or maybe bring in the crystals that we saw in the first trailer that was around Hyrule Castle and got cut, unfortunately. Maybe do something with that. Like, stupid example from unrelated game, but like in Subnautica, if you explore the caves in there, they are so varied depending on where you enter, and there was nothing like that here, and it was really unfortunate. Other than that, I agree that the atmosphere is fantastic. The dark and the first descent and the enemies you find in there, though I didn't quite encounter Lynels all that much. I don't know how, but I just kept going around all of them by accident. I didn't even know, and I was like, where are all the Lynels in this game? I didn't see any. I am like 100 hours in. Yeah, so that was that for the atmosphere. And also I would say that before the game came out, I was kind of hoping for something akin to Elden Ring's Siofra Riverwell moment. If any of you played, then you know. And just that it was unfortunate that visually it didn't quite match what we got there, but then again, Elden Ring has quite a different style in visuals than Zelda does, so unfortunate, but it is what it is. And for gameplay, I would say it's 3.5 for me. What's there is really cool that we get to rematch bosses and explore all the different areas under landmarks, like under Akala Citadel, for example. That was interesting. That was a little saddle spot thing deep in the ground. Like, other than doing the boss rematches and what little bits of story there were, the devs didn't really offer all that much. But I did, like Nairo said, enjoy the little Giga notebooks that you encountered in the camps. I always read that. It was so fun. So yeah.
All right, nice. And finally, Gaming Reinvented. Your rating.
Oh god. I'd say like a 4 or 5 for atmosphere, but a 4 for gameplay for most of the same reasons. I mean, I liked how a lot of times you had interesting stuff underneath the surface, like the mountains on the surface had these valleys underneath, there were mines underneath towns, the boulder statues underneath the goddess statues, etc. And I did like stuff like the hideouts there, I did like the Master Koga quest, the boss rematches, etc. The only issues I do have there are that aren't really any NPCs down there, anything to really do character-wise. I mean, they had them initially when you did story quests, but then they kind of disappeared after that. So it kind of felt a bit empty there. And I also kind of wished they'd had stuff like the Seas Construct and the mini-bosses refightable in some way. Because at the moment, if you fought them once, that's basically it. But yeah.
I wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to atmosphere, about the depths. I know this is probably going to be much later in the discussion, but I'll just touch on it a little bit here. When it comes to atmosphere and the depths, that really played on the build up to Ganondorf leading up to the final fight with him. I remember like when you get back to the beginning of the game and that distorted music starts again, and then it just escalates and it just gets, you feel like you're descending into basically, for lack of a better term, Hyrule's hell, pretty much, whenever you're going to, it really feels like you're descending into the heart of all evil. And the depths atmosphere really played that up. And I really, really like that.
Agreed. Oh, going back to where you started at the beginning of the game. I love that contrast. That's good.